Jung said, like the sea itself, the unconscious yields an endless and self-replenishing abundance of creatures, a wealth beyond our fathoming. The collective unconscious, shared by all, was one of Jung's primary innovations in psychological theory. It's transpersonal and contains the complete record of humanity's evolution. This transpersonal mind has also been called the objective psyche and the deep mind. Austin Spare called the collective unconscious the subconsciousness. He said, know the subconsciousness to be an epitome of all experiences and wisdom, past incarnations as men, animals, birds, vegetable life, etc., etc., everything that exists, has and ever will exist. Just as the whole of physical reality that has happened since the Big Bang is in a sense encoded in the physical world of today, so the whole of psychic reality that has happened since the Big Bang is encoded in the collective psyche today. Time travel is possible in only one way, via the memories of the universe, both physical and mental. We do not have to physically travel back in time to be time travelers. We simply have to access memory. Memories bring the past into current awareness while we are very much physically located in the present. We are accessing the past from the present, not physically moving back to the past. In any case, physical time travel is strictly impossible for the most self-evident reasons. Let's say you were born 30 years ago. Now think of the notion of traveling back in time by 100 years. Your physical body didn't exist 100 years ago. So, if you found yourself, with your physical body, in the past of 100 years ago, it definitely couldn't be the authentic past of 100 years ago because that authentic past did not contain your body. You are therefore dealing with a false past, an imaginary past, not a real past. If present bodies could appear amongst past bodies, it would undermine all of the laws of physics. The very atoms of which your body is made were, in the past, in different bodies and objects, and in the air and water. If you could physically go back in time, the atoms of your body would consequently exist twice, simultaneously, thus violating, amongst other things, the law of the conservation of energy. It's simply bizarre that so many leading scientists believe in, or at least take seriously, the notion of time travel even though you would literally need to destroy physics if you wanted to believe in such a thing. Scientists dismiss religion without pausing for breath, yet, strangely, they do not apply the same dismissive attitude to much more flagrant impossibilities, such as time travel, or randomly creating existence out of non-existence, or extracting mind from mindless matter, or life from lifeless matter. These are all category errors and logically impossible, yet are all eagerly embraced by scientists. Although physical time travel is forbidden, mental time travel emphatically is not. That's what memory is. Your eternal monadic mind was, by definition, in existence 100 years ago, so if you want to know the world of 100 years ago, all you need to do is access the memories of your mind from 100 years ago. When people imagine an out-of-body experience, they imagine traveling through space without their physical body, or with some astral body as a substitute. In fact, out-of-body experiences are overwhelmingly associated with travel through time. Every time you recall a memory, you are in a sense traveling into the past, not as a body, but as a disembodied mind. The top OBE practitioners could travel all the way back to the Big Bang. They would then be gods. Wikipedia says, in some religious traditions including paganism, shamanism, and Wicca, invocation means to draw a spirit or spirit force into one's own body and is differentiated from evocation, which involves asking a spirit or force to become present at a given location. Aleister Crowley said, to invoke is to call in, just as to evoke is to call forth. This is the essential difference between the two branches of magic. In invocation, the macrocosm floods the consciousness. In evocation, the magician, having become the macrocosm, creates a microcosm. With invocation, you draw a spirit into yourself. You want to be possessed. With evocation, you summon a spirit to you, but you require it to remain outside you, not to come inside. If we view the collective unconscious as a place where all personal unconsciousnesses link up, as well as being where transpersonal entities can exist, we can make good sense of what Crowley says. With invocation, according to Crowley, the microcosm is flooded by the macrocosm. The personal unconscious opens to the collective unconscious and is taken over by a node or entity of the collective unconscious, or by the personal unconscious of another being, or by a thought form, whether a servitor, egregore, or God form. With evocation, the magician uses the power of the macrocosm to create a microcosm. The personal unconscious contacts and commands the collective unconscious to summon the personal unconscious of another being, or a thought form, whether a servitor, egregore, or God form. Invocation is about becoming possessed by a spirit. Evocation is about summoning a spirit, but remaining distinct from it. Peter Carroll said, "These beings, servitors, have a legion of names drawn from the demonology of many cultures: elementals, familiars, incubi, succubi, bud wills, demons, atavisms, wraiths, spirits, and so on." Servitors can be generated by the technique of charging a sigil. They can also be summoned or evoked via magic rituals and can then more or less operate separately from the magician. In another sense, though, servitors are invocations given that they are summoned spirits that reside inside the personal unconscious and possess and direct it. If magic is about external reality, it's primarily about evocation. If it's about internal reality, it's primarily about invocation. Obsessions, compulsions, complexes, poltergeists, neuroses, psychoses, intrusive thoughts, and so on, can all be regarded as servitors that we have unconsciously invoked, which have then possessed us and wreaked havoc with our psyche. We need to exorcise these demons which we ourselves made. We need to purge ourselves. The power of Solomon compels thee. According to Austin Spare, servitors are bound to obsessions on the part of the magician. An obsession is how the magician tells the psyche that the magician absolutely wants something. Alternatively, an obsession is the psyche telling the magician that the psyche absolutely wants something and the magician needs to do something about it. In this case, the magician is a servitor of the psyche rather than the other way round. We could view the Jungian persona as the servitor of the Jungian ego, which, in turn, is the servitor of the Jungian self. The shadow is the anti-ego servitor that has the opposite polarity. It's the devil, at least in its strictly negative aspect. The anima/animus, soul image, and mana personality, power personality, inner magician, inner wizard, are also servitors. These all inhabit our psyche and have their own agendas. These Jungian psychic entities are all semi-independent entities. Some are more independent than others. Our psyche comprises a constellation of servitors, some of which are built into our mental operating system, as per Jung's psychological theory of archetypes, and some of which are our own constructs, and are deliberate or accidental complexes. Our conscious mind is unaware of all these servitors since they all belong to our unconscious mind, yet they profoundly influence our consciousness. Their strange influence is most apparent in dreams where all of our complexes are played back to us. Phil Hine wrote, "By deliberately budding off portions of our psyche and identifying them by means of a name, trait, symbol, we can come to work with them, and understand how they affect us, at a conscious level." Jungian individuation is about the ego integrating the persona, shadow, soul image and self to become fully conscious and, ultimately, God. It's useful to try to turn as many aspects of our psyche as possible into servitors and then seek to integrate them into consciousness. Do we invoke servitors, in which case they are most likely to be part of our own psyche, or do we evoke servitors, in which case they are most likely to be part of the objective psyche, the deep mind? Either way, we will become far more powerful if we individuate ourselves with regard to these things and radically expand our consciousness to accommodate them. Our mind is a constellation of task-oriented servitors. People suffering from ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, are so hyperactive and impulsive that they cannot concentrate on any one thing and flit from one thing to another. They are hyperlinking from one servitor to the next, producing chaos. In a sense, we all suffer from dissociative identity disorder, DID, the new name for multiple personality disorder. More accurately, we are suffering from multiple servitor disorder. Each servitor has its own personality and aims, and we have to give each servitor its dues, or it becomes negative. If we totally repress a servitor, it can start to poison our psyche, or, alternatively, become mentally powerful enough to carry out any tasks we set for it, as in chaos magic. The shadow is the strangest servitor. It's the servitor with which we feel the least affinity, which is why it's the shadow, the shunned and rejected part of us. We all create the shadow in order to take away all our mental rubbish, all the stuff we don't want to look at and deal with, all the stuff stinking up the joint. Some servitors are part of our mental operating system and have always existed in our psyche. Some servitors had no existence before we made them, and some are genuine other beings that we summon to execute a particular task for us. Magic is trans-temporal and trans-spatial. It operates by way of the mental domain, an immaterial singularity outside space and time where everything is interconnected, hence everything can influence everything else, at any physical distance. Science is local and disentangled, while magic is non-local and entangled. It's time to end humanity's obsession with meditation and mindfulness and instead switch to magic and the creation of sigils, servitors, egregores and god forms. Meditation and mindfulness are mind-numbingly dull and patently useless. Think of the billions of years humanity has devoted to meditation and mindfulness. What has been achieved? Nothing. Science and mathematics, which have had far less time lavished on them, have achieved wonders and utterly transformed the world. Why does anyone waste any effort at all on meditation and mindfulness? It's time to abolish these pointless activities and instead repurpose magic, but now in terms of psychology, philosophy, science and mathematics. It's time for real magic, not unreal enlightenment via bogus meditation and mindfulness. Servitors crop up everywhere. Children's imaginary friends may be considered servitors. Lonely children summon servitors to be their friends and keep them company. Poltergeists are the servitors of troubled teens, and their task is to reflect the turbulence, chaos and destruction in the teens' minds. As for cars, many people give them names and treat them as if they have a personality. They are the driver's vehicular servitor. In the movie Seven, the evil protagonist reifies the 7 deadly sins as people, whom he then murders. These people are treated by the killer as servitors, each one carrying out and exemplifying the tasks associated with their particular sin. To kill these people is, from the killer's point of view, to excise evil from his life. Rather than face up to his shadow, the protagonist divided it up into 7 servitors, each denoting a deadly sin, and then, instead of dealing with his shadow by integrating it into consciousness, he tried to kill it, by murdering the 7 servitors, who were in fact actual people. The protagonist butted off portions of his psyche and projected them onto other people, whom he then killed in order to purify his psyche. Many religious people have this same murderous mindset. Many religious types use servitors as scapegoats. Leviticus 16:21-22 says, "Then Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head of the live goat, and confess over it all the iniquities of the people of Israel, and all their transgressions, all their sins, putting them on the head of the goat, and sending it away into the wilderness by means of someone designated for the task. The goat shall bear on itself all their iniquities to a barren region, and the goat shall be set free in the wilderness." A scapegoat is someone, or historically an animal, blamed for the sins, mistakes, or faults of others. Wikipedia says, in the Bible, a scapegoat is one of 2 kid goats. As a pair, one goat was sacrificed, not a scapegoat, and the living scapegoat was released into the wilderness, taking with it all sins and impurities. The concept first appears in Leviticus, in which a goat is designated to be cast into the desert to carry away the sins of the community. It's time to create servitors to take away all of your sorrows and sins. The very notion of a scapegoat, a means to banish our faults, our sins, our guilt, our culpability, is the essence of the concept of the servitor. It's an entity we desire to serve an important purpose for us, and what could be more important than removing the blame from us? People loathe blaming themselves, or finding any faults with themselves. Did Jack the Ripper have uncontrollable rage and hate towards women? Did he unconsciously create a servitor which then used him to slaughter women? Whenever he encountered a woman who triggered him, his servitor possessed him and he became a maniacal killer. It was as if a demon was inside him.